So when I do workshops for therapists, I often ask them to get in touch with that little inner voice that we all have running inside our heads all the time, unless we're meditating, of course, which narrates everything that goes on in our lives, including our sessions. Like we might be thinking, why would she put up with him? He's so critical. Or why would he put up with her? She nags all the time. I think you know exactly what I mean. So what I want to know, and please think about this, is what is going on in the room when you're working with a couple. What are they saying? What are they doing when your little inner voice is going, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm feeling kind of hopeless. I don't know what to do. They're never going to stay together. So what is the couple doing and saying to trigger that thought in your head? And when I ask this question of audiences, I get so many different responses, but I'll give you an example of a few of the responses that I get. Sometimes a person will say to me, Michele, I get hopeless when there's flat affect. You give me any kind of emotion and I know that there's something still alive. Someone else will say, I feel pessimistic when there's so much blame and I can't even get them to stop blaming each other and no one takes personal responsibility. Someone else says, I feel like the marriage is over when only one person is willing to come in. Someone else says, when there's infidelity, especially when there's chronic infidelity, the marriage is dead on arrival. Another person might say, when there's domestic violence, I feel hopeless. When there's substance abuse, I feel hopeless. When there's yelling in the session and name calling, I feel hopeless. And then I stop. And I ask people, is there anyone who heard what someone else's response was? And when you heard that response, you thought to yourself, I don't feel hopeless when that happens. I can handle that. I feel optimistic. If so, please raise your hand. Everyone's hand goes up. I have everybody look around. Everyone's hand goes up. And then I say, is someone brave enough to tell me what you were thinking if you had your hands raised? And always people say things like, I have couples where there's domestic violence. That's my specialty. And I help them to have healthy, loving relationships that are free of violence. So that doesn't make me feel pessimistic at all. I have couples where there's flat affect. And I just expect that they've been arguing for years before they get to me. They're worn out. That's why their affect is flat. That doesn't make me feel pessimistic even a little. I have couples where there's been chronic infidelity, and that is not a deal breaker. If the person's willing to take responsibility for making changes and they're willing to take a look at what needs to change in the marriage, I can help them through that process and get to the other side, and on and on. That's when I ask people, so what does this tell us? And do you know what it tells us? It tells us that hopelessness is in the eye of the beholder. Hopelessness is in the eye of the beholder.